So the first book I've DNF'd in 2022 is The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona. This is a horror novel and it was published in 2021 and it's had a lot of buzz on BookTube, and it was also shortlisted for the Goodreads Choice Awards 2021 for the horror category. So I read about 20% of this, so I think I gave it a decent shot, and I was just a little bit bored by it. I didn't connect with the writing style, and yeah, I was just bored. I wasn't particularly interested in where this was going or what was happening. And actually, one of the reasons I put it down was one of the perspectives is from a cat. Now, I actually went into this book thinking that sounded really innovative and really interesting, and it was one of the reasons that I picked it up. But when I was actually sitting there reading it, I didn't really like it at all. And like I say, I just wasn't connecting. I haven't read a lot of horror, and I'm definitely dipping my toe more into the genre. So I just thought, I didn't think this was the book for me, and I wasn't enjoying it. Like I say, I put it down and then I picked up another book and read that book completely, and then I went back to this one, picked it up, read a few more chapters and thought, no, I don't want to keep reading this. Now, having said that, I have looked at spoilers on Goodreads and seen some people's reviews on YouTube, and I have to say, perhaps I should have kept going because, no spoilers, but it sounds pretty interesting and pretty innovative, and it's not where I thought it was going to go. I was just bored and done with it. But perhaps I sort of stayed with this one. Perhaps I should have given it a little bit longer. I'm not going to go back and finish it now because I know everything from what people have said, and I just think I've ruined the enjoyment for myself. If I now know what's going to happen, there's not really much point me reading it. But maybe this was a mistake on my part. I think I probably should have carried on with that one because it sounds like it gets pretty good. So if you've read it, I would love to know what you thought of it. If you thought it was definitely worth sticking with it, I'd just be really interested to see what you thought. It seems a little bit different for the horror genre. So yeah, I kind of wish I'd carried on with that one. But oh well, that was that. So the second book that I DNF'd this year is The Wonder by Donoghue. So this is my second novel by this author. I read The Pull of the Stars by her last year and I really enjoyed that book. It was a definite 5-star read for me, and it's now one of my favourite historical fiction books of all time. So I went into this one with quite high expectations, and I have to say I was just a little bit underwhelmed by it. So this book is set in 1859, so it's another historical fiction book, and we follow the main character of a nurse who is visiting Ireland in order to care for a young girl. Now, the girl in question is 11 years old, and in the 4 months since her 11th birthday, she claims she hasn't eaten a single thing. She can only drink water. So this nurse is here along with another nurse to observe whether this is true. And I was initially really intrigued by that story. I thought it was a really interesting concept, but then I have to say, it got to the stage where I just did not care whether that was true or not. And when I got to that stage, I thought I should probably put this book down because honestly, I just completely lost interest by that point. I didn't warm to any of the characters at all, and for me it just became a bit of a chore to read. So I thought, no, it's definitely time to DNF this one. There's so many great books out there that I want to read. And yeah, it was just a disappointment. I didn't warm to the characters, I didn't enjoy the story. It was just, yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea, this one. Now, I will definitely be reading more of Donoghue's books because I obviously loved The Pull of the Stars, but I have to say that I read Room and I really didn't like that one. That was quite a few years ago that I read that one. So far I've absolutely loved one of her books and I've really not liked 2 of her books. So maybe she's turning into a bit of a hit or miss author for me. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be reading some of her other novels because, like I say, I love that one so much. So yeah, that was that one. Just a bit of a disappointment. So the next book I've DNF'd is Should We Stay or Should We Go by Lionel Shriver. So I was immediately drawn to this book when I saw it in my library. It was on their brand new bookshelf, which is quite a new thing that they have, and I think it's wonderful. I always go over and have a look at their brand new books. And I was immediately drawn to this one because of the author. So Lionel Shriver also wrote We Need to Talk About Kevin, and that is one of my absolute favourite thriller novels of all time. I read it years and years and years ago, and yet I still to this day think about that novel and the events that happened within it. It was such a compelling read, so hard-hitting, really well written, and I just thought the way in which it was written was great too, and it was quite innovative for the time. So it was written in the form of letters from a wife to her estranged husband, and she's telling him about their son Kevin. So brilliant book, absolutely recommend this one. So I went into this book with very high expectations. I haven't read any of her other novels, even though she has quite a few, and I thought, yes, I'm definitely interested in her most recent release. So I had a little look at the back, and I thought the premise sounded really interesting too. So the idea is we have a couple, Kay and Cyril, and they're in their early 50s, and they make a suicide pact together. They say that once they've both turned 80, so when Kay's turned 80 because she's a year younger, they're going to take their own lives. And the reason for this is Kay's father has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he has about 10 years. And then when he does die, they kind of have a reflection on their own lives and what they want to do. So I thought that sounded obviously very dark, but an interesting concept. And then the thing that really kind of drew me into it was it's one of those kind of parallel universes, alternate timelines. So we actually have 12 different timelines, and I absolutely love books that play with time in such a way, that kind of like light science fiction. I think, love it. It's such a great trope. I love books that play with time. But this one, oh no, it was awful. Honestly, it was awful. So I read 42 pages, which is 15%, which isn't very much at all, but it was so dull, and it was so bleak is the word I would use for this book. Just so bleak, so depressing, and honestly, I didn't enjoy a single page of this book. And it's an interesting idea to play with time in such a way, but I didn't even get to that part of the book because I was just thinking, it's bleak, it's awful, and I'm just not enjoying this at all. So yeah, I've DNF'd it. And another thing I really didn't like about it is it's jam-packed with politics. The amount of times these characters talk about Brexit, honestly, they are a couple and they've been together for years and years and years. And I'd say like 80 to 90% of their conversations in this book are around Brexit. And I don't know if the author's trying to put her political viewpoints onto her characters, or if it's just a topic she really wanted to discuss in this book. But it was just relentless, honestly. The amount of times Brexit came up, and I was just like, just so tired of it, and so just not interested in that part at all. I wanted to go into this book and hear about different ways to explore, well, I thought we were going to hear about different ways to explore like life and love and grief and death and all of these very kind of complex, poignant topics. And I thought it was going to have something really interesting to say about these things, something that is poignant and moving and really does make you think, because obviously it's such a deep kind of premise. And in the way in which we were going to have alternate timelines, I thought that sounded really intriguing. But honestly, most of this book just felt like talks on Brexit and just yeah, that was it really. And I just thought, no, it's not for me. So I was going to just kind of muddle on through a little bit more, because I loved We Need to Talk About Kevin. But honestly, it doesn't feel like the same author that wrote that book has written this book. And obviously it is. And lots of people have said, like, obviously on the criticism, that it's hilarious and poignant and entertaining. And there wasn't even one moment that I thought it was funny. And I was expecting kind of dark humour, and yeah, I don't really think it's funny at all. It really is bleak, and I just don't want to read a bleak book. So that was that one. And yeah, really disappointed by it. I have to say, I haven't seen many people talk about this book. I had a little look on Goodreads afterwards, and not many people have read it, just a few thousand. And I don't think I've seen anyone talk about this on BookTube, so it's definitely kind of flying under the radar. And I guess I can see why. So if you have read this book, I'd love to know what you thought of it, because honestly, I haven't found a single person I know or know of that has read this book. So I would really be interested to hear your thoughts on it. So yeah, that was that one. Another, honestly, big disappointment. So overall, in 2022, I have DNF'd 3 books in 4 months. And honestly, I thought it was going to be quite a little bit more than that. But I have to say, I've had a spate recently of disappointing reads. I think I've had 3 2-star reads in a row. So I probably need to start DNFing more and just get back onto the track of DNFing books. But I'm really pleased that I've DNF'd this one, because I really don't think it was going to go anywhere that I was interested in, especially with that amount of politics just kind of thrown into it. So yeah, I would love to know your thoughts on any of these books if you've read them. And thank you so much for watching. Please do like the video if you liked it, and please subscribe if you'd like to see more of me talking about books. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.